If you're done chasing hype and ready to build real daily consistency in your trading, this video will show you how discipline becomes your greatest edge. No more guessing, no more emotional trades, just steady, repeatable results. If that's what you're here for, hit that subscribe button. You want to know the most deceptive thing about trading? It's not the smart money. It's not the indicators. It's not even the fake outs. It's that what actually works looks painfully ordinary. It's boring. It doesn't spark dopamine. It doesn't make you feel clever. And that's why most traders will never stick with it long enough to see what's on the other side. I wish someone had told me this at the start. I really do. Because if they had, I might not have spent years jumping from one strategy to the next, each time thinking, maybe this one will finally unlock the consistency I've been looking for. I used to think discipline was a personality trait. Some people just had it, and others didn't. I was convinced I wasn't one of the lucky ones. Every time I built a bit of profit, I'd give it back the moment boredom kicked in. I'd justify it with phrases like, "This setup looks decent," or "I'll just try this one more thing." But if you looked closer, it was never about the chart. It was about my mind begging for a dopamine fix. A little action, a little stimulation, a way to break the silence and make the waiting feel worthwhile. And the market, being the perfect mirror of your weaknesses, was more than happy to indulge me. It would feed me just enough success to make the bad behavior feel justified, then take it all back the moment I thought I had it figured out. You know what finally broke the cycle? Not another strategy, not a funded account, not a breakthrough setup. It was the day I realized discipline isn't about control. It's about freedom. Let me explain. Most people see discipline as chains, the thing that keeps you from doing what you want. But in trading, doing what you want is the very thing that's wrecking you. You don't need more freedom. You already have it. You can click the button anytime you want. What you need is direction, structure, a way to navigate the chaos without being consumed by it. I'll never forget this one chart. It was a GBP USD 1-hour chart. I was watching price coil into a tight consolidation. There was liquidity above a recent high and clean equal lows just beneath a major support level. Classic trap setup. I'd seen it play out dozens of times, so I marked my zones, waited for the manipulation, and told myself, don't jump early, wait for the shift. I waited. 30 minutes. Then an hour. Still ranging. Everything in me wanted to enter. My brain whispered, you've seen this before. It's gonna go. Don't miss it. But I remembered something a mentor once told me. The market will test your patience before it rewards your positioning. So I waited. Eventually, there was a fake out above the highs, then a sharp move back into the range. That was my cue. I entered short, held it for 5 hours, took partials at the first demand zone, exited fully near the equal lows, plus 3.8 R. Not the biggest win of my life, not the flashiest, but you know what it was? Validation. Proof that I didn't need to chase, didn't need to impress myself with genius. All I needed was structure and the self-respect to follow it. That moment rewired something in me. It was like discovering that discipline isn't this heroic effort to resist temptation. It's a quiet loyalty to your future self. Every time you stick to the plan, even when it's boring, you reinforce a new identity. I am the kind of trader who follows through. It's not about being perfect. It's about casting votes. Every action is a vote for the kind of trader you want to become. And those votes add up, slowly at first, then suddenly. Here's the trap most beginners fall into. They measure progress only by profit. If they're up for the week, they think they're improving. If they're down, they think they're failing. But that's not how professionals think. Professionals measure progress by execution. Did I follow my system? Did I size correctly? Did I avoid revenge trades? You can lose money and still win the day if you executed like a pro. And you can win money and still be slipping if you broke all your rules. The market is too noisy to use P&L as your compass. Your edge won't play out every day. That's the nature of probability. But your discipline? That's something you can control. And when you build that, when you stack those boring, high-quality repetitions, that's when trading starts to change you. Not just your results, but your self-image. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs to prove they can do it. You become someone who just does. This is why I started using what I now call the emotional tripwire technique. It's simple. Every time I feel an internal pull to do something impulsive, enter early, double risk, chase a move, I pause and write down what triggered it. Not just the market condition, but the emotion behind it. FOMO from seeing a move I missed this morning, frustration after a stopped-out trade, boredom on a slow day. It's like setting up an alarm system in your psychology. The moment your emotion spikes, you trip the wire, and you respond with awareness instead of reaction. Do this long enough, and you start catching the pattern before it repeats. Because here's the truth. Discipline isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about noticing emotion before it hijacks your logic. If you've ever blown a good week with one dumb trade, this is why. You didn't catch the tripwire in time. And I get it. When you're in it, it feels like you don't have a choice. The pressure builds. The setup almost looks good. You want action, you want revenge, you want redemption, but all of that is bait. The real move is always one step past your impulse. That's where the edge lives, in the space between urge and execution. So how do you train yourself to pause? Start with what I call the 3-trade rule. Here's how it works. On any given day, limit yourself to 3 trades maximum. Not 3 wins, not 3 losses, just 3 total attempts. Once you hit your third, you're done, whether it's 9 a.m. or 4 p.m. Why does this work? Because it forces selectivity. You can't afford to chase. You can't afford to hope. You start evaluating setups not by how exciting they feel, but by how well they fit your plan. This is where the real discipline is forged, not in resisting bad trades, but in waiting for great ones. And the irony? The more you wait, the less you trade, and the more you make. Discipline isn't just good ethics, it's good math. Less noise equals more clarity, higher R trades. But don't just take my word for it. Track your best 10 trades of the last 3 months. Now, look at the conditions. Were you patient? Was your sizing controlled? Did you follow your system? Chances are, those trades weren't adrenaline-fueled gambles. They were boring, predictable, aligned. That's the edge. And the best part? You can start today. Not by learning something new, not by watching another webinar, but by practicing the pause. Set your 3-trade limit. Watch for your emotional tripwires and build your new identity, 1 trade at a time. This is how you become the trader who doesn't need to chase, who doesn't get rattled by noise, who waits, acts with precision, and gets paid for it. And yes, it will feel boring at first, like going to the gym when no one's watching, like saving money instead of splurging, like saying no to fast dopamine in favor of long-term strength. But eventually, that boring routine, it pays you daily, in profit, in confidence, in freedom. You'll look back at the version of yourself who needed excitement and smile, because you'll know what they didn't. Success isn't built in the highlights, it's built in the habits. If this resonated with you, that's not an accident. It means you're ready, not just to trade, but to trade with intention. Start by removing noise, simplify your process, and if you don't have a broker you trust, I've added a reliable one in the description, someone who respects your execution and doesn't get in the way of your growth. Choose wisely. The journey doesn't get easier, you just get sharper. And clarity? That comes from repetition. So breathe, refocus, and trade like someone who knows who they're becoming. Because you're not here to be stimulated. You're here to be transformed. If you want a full breakdown on how disciplined traders build daily income without chasing signals or hype, let us know in the comments. If enough of you are ready to trade like pros, we'll make it happen. There comes a point in every trader's journey where they ask themselves a brutal question. If I already know what I should be doing, why don't I just do it? And they don't mean it sarcastically. They're not fishing for pity. They're genuinely confused because they've studied the setups, they understand risk, they've practiced the same checklist a dozen times. But when the real-time pressure hits, when it's live, with money on the line, they still freeze. Or jump too soon. Or break the very rule they swore they wouldn't. It's not a knowledge problem anymore. It's a wiring problem. This is where most beginners get stuck. Not because they're dumb, but because they're approaching discipline like it's a motivational game. As if one more YouTube video will suddenly give them the willpower to behave. But discipline doesn't live in motivation. It lives in identity. And identity, that gets built in layers. Let me show you what I mean. Back when I was just starting out, I had a day that shook me. Not because I lost a lot. I'd already been through worse, but because of why I lost. I had a clean setup on NAS 100, marked my zones, waited for the liquidity sweep, confirmed the shift, textbook entry. But I hesitated. Something about the size of the candle, or maybe the fact that the last trade was a win, I second-guessed it. By the time I re-entered, the move had already taken off. I forced an entry at a worse price just so I didn't miss it. You know what happened next. Price snapped back, tagged my tighter stop, and then went to target. I wasn't mad at the market. I was mad at myself. Because the problem wasn't the setup, it was me refusing to trust the boring. I wanted the trade to feel good. I wanted it to be exciting, decisive, perfect. But the best trades often feel uncertain. They require you to act before you feel confident. Because confidence comes after repetition, not before. That day, I realized I hadn't internalized my plan. I was trading from memory, not muscle. And that's when I started rebuilding everything around this core principle. The trader you become is determined by what you rehearse when nothing exciting is happening. Think about it like an athlete. When the game is on the line, they're not deciding what form to use. They're running the play they've rehearsed 100 times in practice. Same with a pilot. If the engine fails midair, they don't go, what should I try? They run the checklist, automatically, precisely. Discipline isn't a reaction, it's a rehearsal. So I changed how I practiced. I stopped sim trading random markets just to stay sharp. I picked 1 or 2 pairs, 1 or 2 sessions, and I practiced the same setup for 3 months straight, over and over and over. I logged the same entries in different conditions, marked the same liquidity patterns, watched for the same shifts, not because I wanted to memorize the market, but because I wanted to program me. Repetition stripped away doubt. Not all at once, but enough. Enough that when the pattern showed up live, I didn't hesitate. I executed, not because I felt certain, but because I'd rehearsed what to do when it looked like this. Most traders never get here. They overfeed their minds and starve their habits. They keep watching new content, chasing more understanding, when what they really need is focused rehearsal of the few things that already work. This is why discipline feels boring, because it's not about stimulation, it's about structure. And if you're not craving that yet, it just means your identity hasn't caught up to your ambition. So let's get it there. Here's a system I use to anchor my trading identity. I call it the 3-pillar loop. Pillar 1, decide the trader you want to be, not the profits, not the goals, the traits. Are you patient, selective, calm under pressure? Write it down. Be specific. I am the kind of trader who waits for price to sweep liquidity before entering. I am the kind of trader who never doubles risk after a loss. These are behavioral standards, not outcomes, because the outcomes will always fluctuate. But the behaviors, that's where consistency lives. Pillar 2, design daily evidence. Once you know the trader you want to be, ask, what would they do today? Not next month, not on the perfect setup. Today, how would they show up? Would they overtrade? Would they force a setup? Would they scalp boredom? No? Then don't. Track your behaviors, not just the P&L, and reward yourself for executing like that trader. Even if you end the day negative, because you're not just trading for money anymore. You're trading for alignment, and the more often your actions align with your desired identity, the more locked in it becomes. Pillar 3, debrief with zero emotion. This is where most traders fall off. They review their losses like failures. Instead of feedback, they beat themselves up, or worse, ignore the review entirely because it's too painful. But real growth requires objective data. No emotion. Just questions. Did I follow my plan? Did I manage risk properly? What emotion was present before, during, and after the trade? I started writing post-trade letters to myself. Short ones, just 3 to 5 sentences. I took this trade because XYZ. I felt anxious during the entry. I hesitated, but stuck to my system. Whether it wins or not, I'm proud of the execution. This is how you decouple your identity from your outcomes. This is how you build discipline that survives the drawdowns. Because drawdowns will come. They're not a bug. They're a feature. They're the part of the journey that reveals your foundation. Anyone can follow rules in a winning streak. But it's in the slump that you discover whether your discipline was cosmetic or core. That's why I started treating drawdowns like stress tests, not what went wrong, But what can I learn about myself from this? In one such slump, I learned that I default to over-optimization. Instead of refining my entries, I started tweaking everything. Exit rules, session times, even pairs. All because I was uncomfortable sitting still. So I built what I now call the Disciplined Default Protocol, a set of rules I follow anytime my equity dips 10% from peak. 1. Pause new strategy research. 2. Reduce risk by half. 3. Trade only one setup, the one with the longest track record. 4. Mandatory journaling every session. 5. Trade no more than twice per day. This protocol has saved me more than once, because it prevents me from digging the hole deeper while I'm emotionally blind. And that's the thing about trading. Your technical vision gets blurry the moment your emotional vision spikes. You need structure before you need it. You need protocols in peace that'll carry you through chaos. If you wait until you're desperate, it's already too late. So let me ask you something real. What's your protocol for when things go wrong? Do you have one? Or are you just hoping to stay disciplined when the pressure hits? That hope is not a plan. The traders who make it, the ones you quietly admire, they're not just better at strategy, they're better at structure. They've learned that discipline is not a feeling, it's a system, and they've built it so boring, so consistent, that it actually becomes the edge. You won't see it on a chart, but you'll see it in their longevity. So here's your challenge. Today, not tomorrow, build your own disciplined default protocol. What are the 3 to 5 rules you will follow, no matter how you feel? Write them, print them, stick them where you trade, and then honor them like they're gospel. Because that's what this game demands. Not just cleverness, not just ambition, but the quiet courage to be boring when your emotions beg you not to be. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear when you got into trading. You wanted edge, power, control. But here's the paradox. The only real control you'll ever have in this market is over how you respond when things don't go your way. Everything else, price, speed, timing, is a variable. You're the constant. So sharpen that, nurture that. Discipline may feel boring today, but it's building something in you that will pay you for years to come. And if you're serious about trading with fewer distractions, fewer manipulations, and cleaner execution, make sure you're using a broker that respects your plan. There's one I trust in the description. Start there. Build your structure and show up like someone who already knows what consistency feels like. Because that version of you isn't a fantasy. It's just a few boring habits away. If this gave you the clarity or spark you've been needing to finally stay disciplined, like for real this time, give it a like, share it with someone stuck in the same loop, and hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next.